Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about The Big Lebowski again. And you might be wondering why I'm talking about The Big Lebowski again. And for those who are confused, I've reviewed this movie already on my channel, and that was like over a year ago. And the reason why I'm talking about it again is because for some reason I was getting the urge to revisit the film, and originally I didn't really care for it, and I gave it like a 4 out of 10, I think, and I just didn't connect to it at all. And I've seen this movie, including this viewing, 4 times in total, and I just had a lot of problems getting into it. I just didn't really find it funny, and I was always confused as to what the movie was going for. And this time, rewatching the film, and this is going to be my 4th time watching it, I think, if I've counted on every time I've seen it at this point. 4 times. I love this movie now. And, well, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I do feel as though this time I finally get it. And before I start talking about this movie, I just want to give you all a heads up. I am going to get into spoilers a little bit, so just if you don't want this movie spoiled, then go watch the movie and come back to this video. And I love what it's going for. I love the characters, and I do think this movie looks great. And Roger Deakins, I believe he did the cinematography for this film, and it just looks really great. And this movie is also very soundtrack heavy, and each song works and benefits the film. But I'm not really talking about this movie to review it, really. I'm mostly going to talk about what I was having an issue with in terms of connecting with the film, like my previous few viewings, and why it worked for me this time. And although I kind of just gave a mini review of it already, from this point on, I'm just going to talk about what worked for me this time. And in my previous few viewings, I didn't really get that the whole idea of the film was supposed to be like our main character, the dude. It wasn't really supposed to be, oh, this character's cool, because that's how pop culture kind of treated the character, and that's how I was kind of expecting him to be. I was like, this character's cool. This is a character you really want to be, and he just wasn't really to me. It was just kind of lame and boring, and like, why would you want to be this guy? And upon this viewing, I get to what they were going for. It's supposed to be the laziest person ever, who doesn't care what he wears when he goes out in public, and he doesn't carry his wallet or cash or anything like that. He writes a check to buy milk that's like 69 cents. And just the laziest guy ever, who has to solve this mystery as to like this woman who's kidnapped, and like he's involved in this like big crime story, and there's a lot of comedy that comes from that. And this time I get it, and to hear a lot of things made a lot more sense. And I remember also trying to figure out what the plot of the film was and where it was going, and it was kind of a mix between that and like trying to understand what the humor was. And this time watching it, I understand that the plot of the movie is not really the point. And while I did know that in my previous few viewings, this time I get it. Why it's not really the point of the film is because it's so convoluted, and like if you try to like figure out what's going on in the plot, sure, you can stay with it for a while, but after a certain point, you're not going to be able to keep up, because so much happens in this movie, and it's just going to make your brain hurt, probably. Well, it did for me, and that's probably what happened with me. And the directions this movie goes, it's not like just random events for the sake of like it having like more things happening, so we can say that a lot of stuff happens, but it doesn't really feel linked. In this movie, it does feel like there's a connection between everything, and things do make sense. And in terms of like what it's going for, I like it. And I also like what they do with Steve Buscemi the entire film. They just have They just have Walter, played by John Goodman, to constantly tell him to shut up, which I find to be very amusing. And also another thing that probably hurt my experience as to like me not being able to get into it was probably the fact that there were too many characters and so many of them just barely have any screen time, and I was just trying to figure out which character is which and like what their purpose is in the film, and ultimately most of these things don't really matter because they don't really have any resolution to them. And it's just like a series of events of like, oh, this will be kind of funny if the dude ran into this character. And I like a lot that it does. And I like how this movie ends a lot. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie would be, is this your homework, Larry? That was a pretty fun scene. And it's pretty much the peak for me in terms of like entertainment value. And the only thing I don't really like about that scene is some dubbing that was in the scene that I didn't really like, and it was really obvious when the one guy came and grabbed the one thing out of Walter's hands, and in the first shot that you see him in, you hear all his dialogue that would be natural, but you can tell his lips aren't moving, and it was very distracting. And one thing that kind of confused me about this movie was the amount of bowling that was in the film. And this might sound weird to a lot of people. I was like, why do you have an issue with bowling? And the reason why I kind of took issue with that is because not so much that it didn't really have any resolution to it, but also it just felt like this was something that was supposed to be kind of fun and cool, and it's like, what am I supposed to get from this? And upon this viewing, it made more sense to me because this is one of the hobbies that the dude has, and like building up to this tournament, even though you don't actually see that, it does add to the film because it gives you more insight to like what the characters are and things that they like. And I do like Walter in the movie a lot. I think he might be my favorite character in the whole film. I just find him hilarious in this movie. And one thing that kind of stood out to me, and this is a tiny thing, but one thing that kind of stood out to me was when Donnie bowls and it looks like he's going to get a strike and get 10 pins, but he only gets 9. And I kind of looked at it as, is that a sign that something bad is going to happen to him? For those who have seen the movie, you know what eventually happens after that scene. Every character in this movie I found to be really funny and entertaining, and this movie can be enjoyed as a surface level comedy, but there's a lot going on underneath the surface, and the movie just gets crazier and crazier as it goes along. I love the dream sequences in this movie. They're very funny, and they add to our main character a lot, and I completely understood what they were going for. And that's about all I have to say about The Big Lebowski upon revisiting it. And I know this video ended up being like half of how I felt about it before and now, and half reviewing it all over again. And what I mostly wanted to talk about was my experience while watching it, and like what works for me now as opposed to what didn't work for me back then. And I don't really plan to do a lot of these types of videos. The most often I'll do something like this would be probably once a year, because I feel as though if I do too many of these, then I'm not going to be really watching or uploading new content for new movies that I've seen, like in terms of movies that I've seen for the first time, or uploaded to my channel for the first time. I don't really plan on doing this all that often. I am planning to rewatch Blair Witch when that movie turns 10 years old, and it's going to be like the 10th anniversary of my channel. And the reason why I want to do that is just to show you like how I was when I first started, and what I see in movies now and what I'm looking for, and like kind of show you how much I've changed as a person like over the past 10 years. Have I changed? Have I not? What happened? So at this point, I officially love The Big Lebowski. It's not my favorite Coen Brothers movie. I do think No Country for Old Men is better, and I need to rewatch Fargo and And I think I like Burn After Reading it better than this movie. You know, there are some that I like better, and there's a ton of their movies that I haven't seen yet. And I would like to get to them one day. But this one's great. I'm happy that I gave it a fourth chance. Normally I would say a second chance, but a fourth chance. And I did not regret buying this. And I will be watching it more in the future. So I'm finally happy that I love it at this point. And I'll update my rating. Initially I gave it a 4 out of 10, I believe. Maybe I give it a 5. I don't remember right now, but I'm going to say 4 out of 10 because I'm pretty sure that's what I gave it. And with all my updated thoughts on the movie, I'm going to give The Big Lebowski an 8 out of 10. I doubled it from a 4 to an 8. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of The Big Lebowski, like I've said in my previous video for this movie. And my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Breakfast at Tiffany's. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.